I loved it.
Well, you know, I did, I think it was the first movie, we did it up in Canada, maybe, yeah, it was the first movie, and I hadn't seen her maybe in 20 years, and I had the first scene with her, and I got dressed, I saw her, and she was so beautiful, looked the same, it really threw me. But no, really, it was like, it was the same 20 years later, and she looked, wow, man, I couldn't even play that scene, it was wonderful, wow. Where was it, Canada? It was someplace in Canada.
It was in Vancouver.
Oh, there's a town. Oh my God. Oh, well, yeah, I wasn't going to do it. I think, well, this is not right for me. He said, where are you doing it? In Vancouver. Oh, that's okay. I like that script. And that was a great town, by the way. Oh, good Lord. Next.
I appreciate you guys being as accessible to us as you've been over the last 3 days. And you guys don't seem very pretentious at all about your star power, but obviously, you're recognized worldwide for the roles that you've played. Have you ever, and this is for each of you individually, have you ever used your star power to do something that mere mortals like ourselves might not be able to do?
You mean like clean the toilets, the tubs?
You've doing something extravagant or something that you may never have been able to do had you not been as famous as you are.
Well, we always get a good table in a restaurant. That's the best part of it.
I'll give you a little anecdote about stardom. My mother was a great star, Mary Martin.
Yeah.
You probably saw her in Peter Pan. How'd you like to have a mother named Peter Pan, by the way? Well, one day, Mother and I and her secretary and my wife were going to Las Vegas, and we were in Las Vegas to see Joel Grey, who was a great friend of mine. And we were in one hotel, and he was playing in another. And a cab came up, and he would only take 3 people. So I said, Mom, take the cab, and I'll meet you over there. I have another one coming up pretty soon. And the cab driver says, no, I don't want her, I want you, JR, get in the cab. I said, no, and then Mother said, no, darling, get in the cab, this one right behind you. And I facetiously leaned out the window as we were pulling away, and I said, that's showbiz, Mom. Well, we get to the show, and halfway through, Joel stops the orchestra and he says, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce 2 very good friends of mine, Larry Hagman from Dallas and I Dream of Jeannie, and it was a nice round of applause. It was so stimulating. And then he says, and now I'd like to introduce his mother, star of South Pacific and Sound of Music, Mary Martin, and he got it out, and people stood on their chairs, got up, 5-minute ovation, the spotlights came around, finally got it all settled down, and she sat down and she says, and that's show business too.
That was my original line. I said, anybody whose mother is Peter Pan can't be all that bad. It wasn't that funny, but it was a good line.
I wanted to say that it's great to have you here, and I feel so old after hearing all the other people with questions say they grew up watching you, and I was out of college by the time the show was on. Yay! I wondered if Bill could share any memories from the Bob Newhart show. And Larry, you were making so many pratfalls in Jeannie. Did you have any permanent or temporary injuries from all that?
Just to my brain. Billy.
The Newhart show was Suzanne Bissett, who just died, was the most marvelous person I've ever met in my life. And Bob and I started out together in Chicago and doing jokes, but it was really a wonderful, wonderful show. It was wonderful writing. Those guys wrote some great things. They wrote Taxi and Cheers and Frasier. But that's a whole different way to work. I actually worked the best I like with Larry and Barbara, because Bob never wanted to rehearse ever, and he was bright and I'm not, so we never went over anything, so that character was mostly terrified, just what's my line? But with Larry, he would write it, we'd make it up, we do a thing, and the directors were so brilliant that let us do this, and they said, we'll light it, and while they would light it, Larry would go over and over, and we'd go over it, and by the time we did it, I knew what I was doing. But not I knew what I never, well, I did know what I was doing.
Yes, you did.
That was a long answer to a short question.
Well, I remember one time when Larry was injured. He doesn't remember. But one of the first shows, the director had me standing on a upholstered chair with my leg on either side, and I was supposed to jump and land on my tummy. Larry was sitting on the sofa. It was like that, you know. He was sitting there, and I was supposed to land on my tummy like this. Well, I did it. I rehearsed it twice. It was fine. On the third time, I jumped over there and I hit his kneecap. Ouch. Broke my tooth, but broke his. You had blood all over the place in your knee. You forgot.
No, I didn't forget.
Oh.
I just chose to let you.
I know. You forgot.
First of all, I want to say to Larry, I adored your mother, and I remember writing a letter in the 70s asking NBC to replay Peter Pan, and I told them, I said, when I was young, I grew up and flew with Peter, and now I have a young son, and I want him to fly with Peter. And Brandon Tartikoff wrote me back and said that, you know, that the rights had gone to a children's hospital, I believe. And then, of course, when it came out on the tape, I bought it and showed it to him. Now I have 3 grandchildren that I've shown it to. And my question for Barbara. I know you played in Flaming Star with Elvis, and I just wanted to know about your experience with Elvis playing in Flaming Star.
It was a lovely experience. I know he's the big sex symbol and all, but with me, he was just a gentleman, and which doesn't always happen with actors on a set. I'd walk out of a scene and he'd immediately find my chair and have it for me. He was a very well brought up young man. And we'd sit, we'd talk. He talked about Priscilla. I didn't know her name at the time, but he talked about the fact that he was very interested in someone he'd like to marry, but he wasn't sure, you know, at this stage of the game. And of course I was married to an actor at the time, and he wanted to know all about that. But it was just fun. He had his friends there. He called them his cousins. And of course, I was so wet behind the ears, I thought they were his cousins. You know, but they'd sit with their guitars and they'd sing in between shots. It was a wonderful experience, really was.
Thank you.
Got a question. I know you've all done a lot of TV, but have any of you done theater, or do you like doing live theater?
Well, Barbara's done a ton of theater.
Well, so have you.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We love it.
Yeah, I've done a lot of theater.
Yeah, we all come from a theatrical background. I mean, we got our training in the theater. At least I did.
That was my first professional job, was Actors Equity. Yeah.
Was what?
Actors Equity. I hadn't got my Actors Equity card.
Oh yeah.
My
yeah.
first professional job. I was never in front of a camera till I came to Hollywood.
Yeah, and I worked a lot in regional theater. I started in New Jersey in the theater in the Round, and then we went down to St. Petersburg, Florida, and I worked down there for a couple of years. Yay! And we'd do a show a week, a musical a week. We'd rehearse during the daytime and play another show at night. And I did, I think, about 60 shows before I was 20 years old. So I had a lot of experience. I did, you know, everything. I did assistant stage managing. I was in the chorus. I danced and put up the tent and slept in the men's latrine. And they weren't paying very much in those days, so I bought a little cot and some mosquito netting because you get eaten alive down in St. Petersburg. And that's where I got my training. And Margaret Webster touring Shakespeare, and Margot Jones in Dallas Theater in the Round. I had done quite a bit before I got into the television end. And then I did soap opera on that too. So. And that's when you're paid to learn in our industry.
And that's like doing theater, soap opera, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
It's like really like doing theater. It's
Oh,
live.
Oh,
and it's,
yeah. I
you
mean,
learn
in those
to-
days we didn't have teleprompters
Yeah,
either. You had to
yeah.
learn like 30
Yeah.
pages a day or something. And, oh, it was tough, but it made a man of you, even the women.
Yeah. What I loved about the theater is I'm not a very good actor, and certainly I'm dyslexic. I did just have a problem with the seriousness, right? But with the theater, which is so great, is like after about 3 weeks, you know the lines, you know your blocking, you know where you are, and that's the only time I get to do my stuff. Because you're just so secure, and then you can, but you can't do that on TV. You know, with Newer, every day you rehearse and do it out there, and we had to do it short. But the theater, by the time you know it all, then it's just wonderful, you know. But you don't get that shot on TV, you know. So.
And to get something back from a real live audience is something
yes.
that a lot of kids now, they're brought up on television, they do television, they never really hear a lot of actors now, an audience. They don't get that fun thing you get when you can control an audience and they can control you.
But they also don't project. Have you noticed that? A lot of the younger actors, they don't know how to project their voice or speak clearly so that you can understand them.
Yeah.
They're so used to the sound man turning up the knob.
Why is it all the old movies, I can hear everything, and then the new ones, I have no idea, I can't, what did he say? You see all those Cary Grant, those old movies, boy, there's no problem, but the new movies, boy, I'm telling you, what did he say? I'm going to say, well, I'm a little deaf, but that's another problem.
I think we have time for one more question.
I have time for one more answer, so.
I had two, but I'll try. I was a big fan of I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched.